Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, and welcome to my series, How Do You Work This Thing? Pro Tools Edition. If you're anything like me, you got Pro Tools, you want to up your game in either audio production or video production, and you have no idea how this piece of software works, man. I was the same way. I remember getting this piece of software, not knowing what the hell was going on. I was kind of pissed off because like you think it would be easier than it was, and then you look at it and you have no idea what's going on. So this series is essentially going to walk you through all of the steps you need to get to start creating music and to start editing songs and podcasts and just dialogue and anything else you could possibly want. So this is going to be a series that takes you from beginner to expert, and this video is just going to basically walk you through the very beginning steps of Pro Tools. So let's do it. All right, so what you want to do on your desktop, one of two things. You got to open Pro Tools first off. So we're either going to do that by finding Pro Tools in our dock, or going to Finder, just in case the software isn't in your dock, and typing in Pro Tools. So you just have to type in a little bit and it's automatically going to find it. Hit enter, and then it should just load right up. If all goes well. You never know. Cool. Okay, so this is exactly where we want to be. This is the dashboard, and this is going to be the very first intro into your journey of Pro Tools. You're going to see this dialog box. And what you want to do to create your own session is you want to make sure you're on Create a Session. Recent are going to be previous sessions you had recently opened. And you don't need projects because you basically need to be signed into the Pro Tools cloud. So Create is going to be where you want to be. So let's just call this session my first session. You can name it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. This is pretty much just for demonstration purposes. So local storage. Local storage is where you're going to want this because this is going to be on your computer as opposed to the Avid cloud. So we're going to do that. We don't want to open a template. If you did, you could click this box and then click on any one of these templates. Basically, if you click one of these, it's going to open a session that has certain amount of tracks and buses already pretty much manufactured for you, but we don't really need that since we're starting from square one. So I'm going to untick this box, and my first session, that looks good. So let's talk about file type. So file type, I generally like to use a WAV. A WAV is, it used to be PC's version of an audio file, and AIFF sort of used to be Apple's version of an audio file. They're both pretty much completely interchangeable nowadays. So I'm kind of old school. I like to use a .wav, so that's what I'm going to use for this. I pretty much use it exclusively for everything. So let's have this file type be a WAV. And for sample rate, so this could be a whole nother video, but for sample rate, you essentially want it between 44.1 or 48. So 44.1 is deemed CD quality, and 48 is typically used for video. But you could record music at 48 too. It would be slightly higher quality. I like to use 48 because I work a lot in the video world, so a lot of what I do is not necessarily song creation, but adding dialogue to music or sprucing up like a video file that has audio in it or cleaning things up or anything in that world. So I use 48 a lot because I do primarily dabble into the video world. So I'm going to do 48. Bit depth 24 is fine. You can either do 16 or 32. 32 creates fairly large files, so I'm going to go with 24. And just so you know, the larger your sample rate, the larger your file sizes are going to be. So you generally want to stay with 44.1 or 48 unless you're a real professional and want to go to like 192, but a lot of the times the human ear can't even really decipher the difference between anything over 48. I'm sure an a-hole of an audio engineer would fight me to death on that, and they're right, but practically speaking, 44 or 48 is fine, believe me. I/O settings. So I/O, I usually leave it at last used. It's what I last used. It's my interface. So I'm using a Thunderbolt Focusrite interface. So whatever settings I used from last time are fine. But generally speaking, I always use last use. I always think that's fine. And location. So we do want to change the location. So I'm going to click on this. And this basically just lets us decide where we want to stick the new Pro Tools folder that we're creating. I'm going to throw this onto the desktop for demonstration purposes, but generally you don't really want to run a Pro Tools session on whatever drive your operating system is running on. Since we're using not a lot of system resources right now, I just have Pro Tools running. And also, since this isn't really going to be a big Pro Tools session or a file size, or it's not going to be really complicated, the desktop is probably fine. But ideally, you want to have a second hard drive for any of your Pro Tools sessions, just as not to bog down your current operating system. These are all guidelines, they're not rules, so, you know, use what you have. The software is like expensive enough. You don't have to go out and buy a hard drive to use this software. The software is expensive enough, and that's a bit of a problem, but all right, we'll get into it. I digress. Okay, so cool. So we're on the desktop right here. That looks good. Desktop root folder, that just means you just click desktop and you don't have to click anything else you have on your desktop. If you want it to throw it into a new folder on top of your desktop or in whatever hard drive you're using, you just click new folder and then type in the name to create. But we're just going to throw it right on the desktop and just go from there. So after you set it on the desktop, you just click open, you click create, and that's it. You pretty much have your session started and ready to go. So let's stop here. We got a ton of other videos coming out chronicling all the steps you need to basically completely learn and understand Pro Tools. So stay tuned for my next set of videos, and by all means, ask me questions on the in the comment section. I'm like 100% going to answer your questions, and I know this video is sort of early in the game, and it might even be sort of, you know, you might be past this video as far as skill set goes, but keep asking questions in the comments and sort of discuss with each other if you could help each other out in certain aspects of this software. I'm going to try to get to everything, but when you guys ask questions, it lets me figure out what my next video is going to be. So cool, I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next set of videos. See ya.